So here's the thing with this particular case. This is one of our people, and this practitioner, this is about a dentist who's got a group of operations and happens to be a personal friend of this doctor. And in fact, the kids of this practitioner have all gone there for their dental work. Even goes to the same church. So there's a personal relationship there. And the other thing is that this particular practitioner has a good perspective on Austrian economics and was thinking that this friend may be in financial trouble. And this practitioner, knowing the kind of work that I've done for all these years, yes, practitioner was interested in maybe seeing if an IBC policy could be put in place here. That would be great. But the concern was more about the friend's business. And if I saw that this operation was indeed in trouble, the practitioner said, please step in and help my friend. So that's the uniqueness of this case. So in that situation, we talked it through, and so we began to have a series of go-to meetings with this doctor. And after these meetings, I prepared this report for the practitioner. It was for purposes for the practitioner to see what I saw, how I analyzed this, and then basically said, make this presentation to the business owner. I've laid it all out here. You should be able to do this without any problem. And that's why I wrote the report. That's why it says that it's prepared for the practitioner. Now, obviously, I told the practitioner, we're not going to name any names here. We're going to camouflage everything here. And there's no illustrations to show you here. But I am trying to get across the uniqueness of this case, the willingness of this practitioner to say, it's not about a policy so much as making sure my friend doesn't lose his operation. That's the kind of thing, that giving thing. So I wanted to tell you this, is that the relationship was so close that instead of taking the report, reading it, and then having a meeting with this doctor, the practitioner gave the report to the doctor to read on his own. And the doctor, after having read it, did exactly what it said. Okay? And it was just using pure Austrian economics, and in particular, what you need to be thinking about is Bob's economic talk. When he was talking about the business cycle, this is what is here, the business cycle in itself. It's not that difficult once you grasp. Think about Bob up here talking about it, and then I want to show you how I brought it out to play here. That's the main thing I'm trying to get across. So I also put references in here. So go to the second one, David, and just click it on. I'm just going to ask the question if y'all have seen this, read it. Have y'all read this one by Bob?
Yep. I coined that too.
All right, so that article was part of his references. You see those references at the very end of the report. There were several references. So That article, there was another article, the other one, banks are risky, David. Can you flip on that one?
Richard?
Mm-hmm.
Banks are risky.
So remember the first one was own your own debt. And then this one, bank deposits are risky now more than ever. You read that. And then the third thing that he had down there was how to weather the coming financial storm. Can you flip that? Just show a visual of that. And how many of y'all saw that live stream? Okay. So.
This is the podcast, right? This is the podcast?
I don't. Well, anyway.
Episode 28.
No, the how to weather.
Video.
Yeah, the video. You don't have to flash that. I think people know which one I'm talking about. So, he saw that. Those two articles were on the references, and also that video stream of how to weather the coming financial storm. We had several thousand subscribers to that, and he viewed that, and there was a couple other things on there. Now let's come back to the first page, and I just want to spend a little time on this first page and just tell you the story behind this. This doctor has a business expansion plan. And so in this meeting, I'm pulling information. I can do this pretty quickly and assess where a business is. And so what I learned is that there are private equity firms moving into his area, and they're gobbling up these dental practices. They're basically hedge funds. Investors are investing money in the hedge funds, and these dental practices are kind of like cookie cutter kind of establishments. And so they buy them, and this is how they get a return for their investors. So they're coming into his market area, and this doctor basically is frightened by that. So it's really not an expansion thing where it's proactive kind of thing. It's a defensive move. So he figures that the only way to combat this is for him to expand to get a larger market share before they start gobbling it up. At the back end, he may be thinking, they're paying big dollars for these things. Maybe they'll buy mine. That kind of thinking. Again, he's a doctor, but he's entrepreneurial. They take risk, okay? So I can see why this practitioner said, I think he's overextended himself. Because what this is a real estate deal. And you heard a great presentation on real estate with John and Jimmy. And he was talking all kinds of ways to do it. And this is not to show you that this is a great way to do real estate. This is just what this man was doing in order to keep these outsiders out of his market area. That's what was going on after the first meeting. Now, in the middle paragraph on that first page, boom, right there is where you see what happens with business owners. Think of Bob talking. They get locked into that low interest rate environment. Cheap money, low rates, easy credit. It's a perfect solution for this man, to expand. It does it every time. Business owners get sucked into that, and they wind up getting tricked because down the road they get slammed, okay? But it's that interest rate, that low interest rate environment. It's all put out by the Fed and the commercial banking system. So that was the first tip right there on why he was doing it, and it was going to work in line with what his strategy is. I've got to do this. The rate is low. Ability to get credit is good. So he goes there. And so what he's going to do is he's going to take real estate properties, and he's basically going to key in on doing equity lines of credit to buy property and expand that way. Now, he's capitalizing on the fact that the Fed has, made the market value of real estate rise so that everything out there looks like it's, rising. And so it's perfect timing for this doctor. In the third paragraph on that first page, what you realize, and this came out of the meeting, that in addition to this credit, easy credit that's out there, he's putting in his own money into this thing for working capital. So he's using the bank credit, equity lines of credit, and then he's putting his own capital, and the amount happens to be $70,000 a month coming out. And so as I start to assess this thing, this is a pretty small business, only does about $5 million in annual sales out of 5 locations, but this man is pulling out $840,000 in profit because he's taking out that $70K in bonuses every single month, and he's using that as working capital. So that was another piece of his strategy that I was looking at. In the second page, I pick up on the very first so-called positive thing about the business, because he tells me his business is recession-proof. And I said, oh, how so? He says, well, in the 2008 financial crisis, nothing happened to me. And I said, really? That's interesting. I said, so you're a dentist. What do you specialize in? He says, braces, children's braces. He said, parents will put the money up for children's braces. And he said, and of course it's mostly cash, credit card business, that sort of thing. And so he says, yeah, I didn't really feel anything during the 2008 crisis. So this is according to Dr. Smith. He says, my business is recession-proof. And I'm thinking, well, he may have a point. He may have. But then I spot a negative, because then he goes on to say, but I do offer short-term credit to my people. And I go, accounts receivable. Now, if you have a crash and it hits hard enough, it will put pressure on those accounts receivable, and it's going to put pressure on working capital. So I saw that as a negative. There at the bottom of the second page, what you see are the properties that make up his monopoly board, so to speak, of his real estate. And you can see them all listed 1 through 8. But here's the main thing I want you to see right now is that, or I didn't really tell him this, but I was making my little notes, and his source of funding is the equity lines of credit. That's what he's using for capital, working capital, plus the $70K, which we've already said is $840,000 a year. This is like excess cash flow, right, in a sense, but it's his profit. Plus just credit. He's credit worthy, He's in a business that banks know have cash flow. So, they will extend a business like that, credit. Never mind whether they're going to make it down the road or not. It's all about, we can get in here, we can make them a loan, you see. Now, what I didn't tell the doctor in the meeting was that, but what this comes with a big price, and one of them is liens on assets that he will not recognize are going on there before it's too late. And the other one is the personal guarantee. Now, in the talk you heard with Jimmy and John. Wow, this one doesn't work. No, I remember seeing John talking to Jimmy, and Jimmy, almost like he wasn't even listening to what John was saying, he says, yeah, it's that personal guarantee. He brought it out several times. Go back and review it. Yeah, but that personal guarantee. Jimmy's a good businessman. I don't know, he's got over 100 properties now, but that personal guarantee, once he realized that they got him there, he said, I can't sleep at night. You see, it's a powerful, this is how they pierce the corporate shell, that personal guarantee. So that, now in the initial meetings, I didn't tell him that. I didn't really want to scare him. But I was seeing that this was his source of working capital, okay? All right, so that was my first little assessment there. And then the second one on page 3, you see it's entitled The Flow of Funds, right? That's what's important. Remember Mark Benson's talk, the money flow, always. So that was the next topic. I needed to see how the funds flow. How does this strategy work? You're watching the flow of funds. So one thing about this, that this doctor was familiar with dividend paying whole life. That's another plus there. He had a couple of policies, and he understood the benefits, but the practitioner had shown this doctor a privatized banking policy illustration. And he was kind of blown away by that. And what he was seeing was the ability to access that cash pretty quickly. Because you can see he's kind of shoestringing this thing. So he's seeing, oh, okay, that's good. So he had an eye on that illustration. Okay, now, the flow of funds, I don't want to, get you all confused with numbers and everything, but let me just show you how the strategy was working. Like I said, it's not great real estate, but this is how it was working. So he took property number 1. He's a wealthy doctor. He went out and bought a beach house in a very plush part of Florida. And so this he did before before my conversations with him. And this house had risen in market value up to 1.3 million. Okay? And so what he did is he took out an equity line of credit, and he came over here and he purchased property number 2 with that equity line of credit, and this was $750,000. Now this one, Black Beauty Farms, is a commercial development. It's supposed to be a hot place for all kinds of commercial development up and coming. So it's a piece of land, is what it is. So he put his footprint there with this money. So that was his first move. And then he turned around and he immediately stuck oh wow. I'll just keep riding with this one. He stuck a for sale sign on this thing right after he did that. Okay, so he made that move. Then, when I came into the scene, this has happened, and then he was taking the $70K, which is the $840 a month, and he was paying this line of credit down as fast as he could. And when I came into the scene, he was down to 490. And he was thinking, I'll be out of this thing in about 7 months. And his strategy was to go turn around and take this 1.3 million, and he was going to come out here with this, and he was going to pay off an $850,000 debt over here on property number 6. And this was property Morrington. And this is one of his main offices, like a headquarters. Okay, and this one has a market value that has shot up to 1.3 million. Okay, so he's going to come down here and knock this off, and that happened to be one of his offices where this debt, he wanted to do that, take it out of there. So what he was going to have now, he's got 2 contracts, he says to me. I got 2 contracts ready to close. And one of them is on property number 4, and the other one is on property number 5. Of course, I'm trying to follow this while he's telling me this. And he says that this is Columbine. You can see how they're named there on your report. Columbine. This one is Galatia. And he's going to pay $250,000 for this, and he's going to pay $425,000 for this, and they're both pieces of land. And how he was going to deal with this is he was going to get done here. He's going to bring this over here, which is $840,000 a year. Now that he's done doing this, paying this off, see, he's going to take this 840, which is the 70K, and then he's going to have an additional $450,000 in working capital after he, sells this and pays this off. So he's going to have that. And then he's going to have the potential for another equity line of credit from this operation now, because it's got a market value of 143. So he's setting his working capital up from this move right here to take care of these 2 things. Okay? And then he says, but in addition to this, I've got this other property over here, number 7, which is a condo that I own outright. This property number 7, this is Hilltop. And it's got a market value of $350 on it. This is a condo. And he says, I think I can get an equity line of credit from here to use as well. I mean, he's got great credit, so this is how he's planned this. So I can go here with it if I have to. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and also get an equity line set up for property number 8, which is this private residence. I mean, so I'm listening to this because he thinks he can maybe get something out of here, but he owes, the market value on his house is $2.1 million, and he's got a mortgage on it of 1.3. Okay? So this is this man's strategy. Okay, like I said, it's not great real estate moves or anything. This, and it's all defensive. He's just trying to protect his business, and this is how he plans to do it. So one of the things in the analysis part, which you go down, you see I did an analysis. And what I learned in doing the analysis after another meeting is, guess what? He has got, this is just land, and he tells me he's got to build this thing out, it's going to cost him $4 million to build this piece of land out. And then Columbine over here is going to cost, this is going to be a build out of $750,000. And then Galatia is going to cost him a build out of $875,000. And so when I added all that up in the analysis portion here, what I realized was that totals up to a pretty significant amount of money. Total was $5.2 million for all that build out. Okay. All right, so now I got a good picture of the flow of funds, what's coming up. And so I say, well, now at this point I'm talking to the practitioner and I'm saying, you know what, if the market crashes in the middle of this strategy, I mean, he does have a problem. Okay, he will. As you well know, I said it's going to trigger a drop in values nationwide market. Okay, that's what will happen, and credit will just literally get cut off. Everybody panics, so banks will shut down on credit. And of course, banks can call notes. When they get nervous, that's what they do. So I said, that's what's going to happen. And you could have a spiking of interest rates hit if it gets bad enough. And so there'll be unemployment like crazy. There'll be bankruptcies. So the pundits that we were listening to back in October when this was going on, everybody's saying, man, the markets are poised to crash already. They really are. I mean, they're and they still are. Okay, so that's the business cycle speaking. Okay, and Bob was showing you how often this kind of stuff happens, and you know we have short memories, right? We forget, but that low interest rate. You know, that easy credit does it every time. So I found this graph that had just come out right in the middle of this report, and I included it in the report. And this graph, the paragraph underneath it is worth reading. This is the minutes of the Federal Open Market Committee, which is part of the Federal Reserve. They're worried. They're looking at this financial stability risk thing, and it's saying there is an enormous amount of debt being, going on for the non-financial corporate sector. And he's got to be reading and say, I'm non-financial. I'm a dentist. But the report is saying that the Fed is saying, wow. And it's interesting, it says that these low interest rates might be encouraging excessive borrowing and increased leverage. That's what the report says right under that. So he read that. And they were saying the metric shows that it hasn't looked like that since 2008, 2009. Those little big red lights flashing, and this is what was going on, before the Trump nomination, right? So, but that's the story that we had. I put it in the report, and then at that point, I was telling the practitioners, okay, you got to make some recommendations here. I was writing this out. What's going to happen here if a stock market crashes and then followed by the real estate market? He needs to think about that, right? And that's all it is. It's nothing more than he needs to think about that. He needs to be a little bit more cautious about it, which is what our recommendations really said to him in this report. You need to, be careful. Be cautious about this. And so the rest of the report was giving him 3 steps on what he should do. And as I said, by having him digested this information, because the practitioner gave him the report, he pretty much did everything that the report suggested. But it was more or less a wake-up call to the doctor that he needed to, be careful. Now, all we really did was point out that what he needed to do, instead of doing this, what good is that going to do if the crash hits while he's trying to pay down this debt? Does everybody see that? What good is that going to do? If the crash hits, this thing's not going to sell, and everything else sort of collapses. This is how flimsy some of these things are. You see, what I did say to the practitioner, but you know what? IBC will work here, and what I discovered is that these build-outs don't have to happen for 2 years. So if we can get this man to do something different with his flow of funds, we're going to put that fellow in a much safer place where he's not having to deal with outsiders, outside bankers, because he's got a lot of cash flow, right? And so I basically said, you need to stop doing this, stop putting that 70 in there, and you take that 70 or a portion of it, and you put this into an IBC policy. And you start, going there with it first. And I want you to go ahead and do that. Keep trying to sell that. Follow the plan. Do as much of it as you can. Go ahead and get these lines of credit over, because if the crash comes, at least got these things open, if you need it. But just follow the plan all the way through. Because if the thing crashed, I realized he had, he had debt in the existing properties of $2.9 million. That this working capital could do work at trying to deal with. And since he didn't have to deal with this for 2 years down the road, he can weather this if he just kind of pulls back and is a little bit more cautious. The rest of the steps is what you would tell your clients anyway. This is why you do it. This is why you do it. All these kinds of things. And he saw it, and so, he just diverted this, a big pile of this money in here. And that was it. That's all it took. Practitioner helped the friend, obviously made a nice, I saw the illustration, it was like 11.3 million first year in death benefit. So it's a lot of money. He didn't put the whole 70, I think it's 50 is what it amounted to. And then I heard at the latest that he has an accountant that's a friend whose wife died, was killed in an accident, and left the accountant with little kids. And he realized that this man is young too. He's got little kids, and his wife wasn't insured. So I did hear that he took the policy and split it in two, same amount, and did one on him and then one on his wife, just to make sure that he had the whole plan done. But again, the business cycle, once you get to understand it, it's pretty straightforward. And you see these cases come up all the time. You see them. and you could really save people, some real headaches. So that's really the case. It is unique.